This is the Smart Beach Investor Podcast, where we explore how investors leverage real estate at the beach to live big lives and build their personal wealth. If you are an investor at the beach or you want to be, you found the right place. Enjoy today's show and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of the Smart Beach Investor.
All right, Katie, we got a guest today. We're going to be talking insurance, and we've got Clint Durst, who is the managing advisor for affordable home insurance.
Awesome. Welcome, Clint.
Clint, you there, bud?
How you guys doing?
Awesome, bud.
We're great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So just so we're clear, Clint, your company anyway, insures Katie's primary residence. And
We do.
Apparently you're doing a hell of a job.
Yep. Kind of like them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're a pretty large broker here in the state of Florida. We represent about 98.9% of the carriers in the state of Florida. So, yeah, just like with Katie's policy, and she'll attest to it, we've had the ability to shop it with multiple carriers. And, you know, especially with the market right now, things going up and down. If something goes belly up, we can just move her to another carrier. So a lot of resources there.
Love it. All right, so Clint, let's jump right into it real quick. Let's just start here. What is the state of play with insurance at the beach right now, relative to condos and houses? What's going on?
Yeah,
lots. Right?
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time in this podcast to go through it all. So
let's do the highlights.
I'll try to hit some bullet points. Yeah, it's the market's extremely hard right now. Meaning, far and few between how many carriers want to write business, and the ones that do, I'm sure you guys have seen it on your own personal insurance. The rates have increased drastically in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So, we, like I said earlier, we have the ability to shop you with all the carriers. What's happening though is they're really tightening down on the guidelines, i.e. roofs, hot water heaters, things of that sort. They're really trying to mitigate their losses due to the amount of losses they've had over the last 6-7 years.
Okay. So let's look at houses first, right?
Okay.
The big thing that we keep hearing over and over on the house, roof. Mm-hmm. The roof. Yep. My roof's not even old, right? Why are you making me replace it? What's going on? What can we talk about there?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So historically, for example, let's take an architectural shingle roof. Historically, they started at 25 years, dwindled down to 20 years, now to 15 years. What they're doing is, when you buy your roof, they say, hey, look, this architectural shingle roof's good for 30 years. But on the insurance side, what they're doing is they're paying millions of dollars to actuaries. Okay. These actuaries compile a bunch of data and they run, a bevy of tests. And then they say, hey, technically at this age, this is when we're seeing the majority of the claims come in. So what they're trying to do is hone down that age to get to where the actuaries are saying the useful life really is, opposed to what the manufacturer is saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're getting from the roof guy 30 years, but from your insurance guy, you're getting 15 years.
Exactly. And, what I can tell you is, especially for folks, and we're seeing a lot of it, that are having to replace a roof, I get the question all the time, shingle or metal. Metal, you're not going to have to mess with it as much. You can get, 25 years out of it, but it's more costly. On the flip side of that, shingle, you're going to get 15 years, and really a lot of these carriers are going to 10 years.
And these are asphalt shingles, right? The typical everyday shingle.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So these carriers are really tightening down those guidelines. And again, it all leads back to trying to mitigate loss. And based on the actuaries, this is when it's saying that they're going to have the most issues.
Same thing for those tile roofs.
Yeah, so good question. Yeah. So historically, the tiles were going to 35, 40 years, but those have trended down as well, similar to the real estate market. Those are start trending down. You're only going to get about 25 to 30 years, but the big but is it depends on what carrier you go with. So again, we have all the options. While you may call one shop, they can only shop you with 10. We can shop you with 40 different carriers, and you'll have some carriers that'll take it at 30 years. Some will take it at 25 years. So it really just depends on the carrier and the risk.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if I got a house that is, and we see it on the sales side all the time, right? They're buying a house that's 15 years old. So the roof is 15 years. We got to buy, the roof's a big issue. That's expensive, right? But they got to do it or else they won't get insurance. Is that true?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Either that, or we can fall back on the state carrier, which is the last case resort. I can tell you, I'm not a fan of writing with them. They were designed to take on risks that can't get insured by anyone else. But John, even last year, I don't know if you've seen it, they posted $125 million underwriting loss.
Yeah, this is Citizens, right?
Yeah.
This is Citizens. That's right, the state carrier. So what that means in layman's terms is their guidelines are going to start shrinking as well. Okay, so the cutoff really for a roof 15-year shingle, go ahead and get it replaced.
Okay, even if it's not leaking or whatever else, it's the age, it's not the wear and tear. Is that fair to say?
Exactly.
Right.
You're exactly
just
right.
the way it is. All right, let me ask you this, Clint. Is there any way that changes? Are people lobbying? Are they going crazy trying to get something to happen on that? Is that it is what it is? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is what it is right now. I mean, there's really nothing we can do.
Okay.
You know, our governor DeSantis just called a special meeting, I believe, middle of the month to try to stabilize the insurance market. But right now, there's really just nothing you can do with the guidelines that they're putting down on us.
All right. So there's that. You got to do it. But affordable home insurance will shop you, get you the best deal you can find, whatever. There is insurance out there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
You'll get some. You're just going to
Absolutely.
pay more for it, but it's out there. Okay.
Yeah, just like everything else going on with inflation, real estate costs, etc. Unfortunately, we're all just going to have to pay a little more right now. You know, this happened. This happened early 2000s, where the market kind of did the same thing. Rates trended up. The market got hard, but guess what? Just like everything else, it'll soften back up at some point. And hopefully, you know, we can get more carriers in the state with some more appetizing rates.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about hot water heaters. Now, there's a question I never thought I'd ever ask, but here I am. What in the world is going on with hot water heaters, Clint?
Yeah, it's very similar to the roofs. You know, they look at them and they say, hey, at 15 years, with most carriers, there's exceptions, but with most carriers at 15 years, that's when they start rusting out and or leaking. So again, trying to mitigate losses, there are exceptions. You know, if the hot water heater's in the garage, if it's on the first floor opposed to the second floor, it just, again, depends on the carrier, but the general rule of thumb is going to be 15 years.
Just the way it is, whether it's leaking or not, because we see it all the time in these inspection reports. Needs a new water heater. It's beyond its useful life or whatever the case may be. And the owner will say, well, that's true or not, but it works just fine. I've never had a problem. It's not leaking. It's blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Which is probably true, but you still need to replace the water heater.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. And you'll see it too with HVACs. You know, HVACs have a little longer useful life, 20, 25 years, again, depending on the carrier. But all the carriers are starting to cut back on that. So really the cutoff there is going to be around 20 years, depending on the carrier.
Interesting. Yeah, you're right. The HVAC.
And you guys are getting more sticklers because, you know, I changed because we had the other one that I was with went belly up and we had to change carriers for me. And the first time ever, you guys had to schedule an inspection for my home when I got this new insurance. And this guy went through our home with like a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I got an email. He took a picture underneath my bathroom sink in the cabinet there. I don't even know how the guy saw it with all my junk in there. This tiny, tiny, tiny little drop. And he's like, you have to fix that or we're going to cancel you. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well,
I mean,
they're trying to limit their exposure, aren't they?
Yeah, it wasn't even the roof,
I mean,
the HVAC, nothing.
Yeah.
It was this tiny little leak at the bottom of our bathroom cabinet.
Exactly. So it all, again, funnels back to trying to mitigate losses due to being in the red. These carriers have been in the red for so long. It doesn't matter if you're selling popcorn or selling insurance. If you don't, you know, if you're not, you know, making any money, you're not going to stay in business. So going back to that, that's exactly right. You know, on an older home, you supply us with an inspection, a wind mitt and a 4-point. We submit it to the carrier. It looks all well and dandy. But what's happened is there's been pictures that have been left out, right? So what happens is every time a policy's bound, the carrier is going to send out an inspector, and they want to make sure the house is what we say it is. There's not a hole in the side or in the roof or what have you. And the whole goal is to mitigate losses.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is this the same for condos? Yeah, at least the interior part that the owners are responsible for? It's the same thing. Is that fair to say?
No, it's not. Yeah, they're not going to go out and inspect, you know, Majestic Sun or something like that.
Okay.
They'll go online, look at Google Maps, property appraiser's website, all that stuff. But believe it or not, now the hot water heater is a big deal in condos as well.
Oh, we're seeing
So
it all
that's
the
a
time.
question that we're having to ask.
For sure. And the HVAC, same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, if it's a superior building with 150 units, there's going to be a master policy. So the HVAC is going to fall under that master policy, not the
okay.
unit owner's responsibility there, right? So really, they're looking at going, hey, if John buys this condo, he's responsible for the walls in.
Right.
What from the walls in is going to cause damage? That's what we need to identify.
Okay. So, and then from an HOA standpoint, is that a different game, Clint, the HOA? Because I know some buildings are getting dropped. Courtney on our group owns a condo in Panama City, and she's got a letter saying, sayonara, we're not going to keep your building. So they're scrambling to find another building. Of course, the rates are going to be higher, and away we go. Is it kind of the same situation there?
It is, but the condo is going to carry their own policy, as is the HOA. So that's not going to fall under the unit owner. But they do similar things. Yeah, they're going to, if they write a big policy on the condo, that company's going to come out and look at the ins and outs of the entirety of the condo to make sure, again, it is what they say it is, no liability exposures, et cetera.
Right. And then it does get back to the owner because they have to pay the higher association fees to cover
the
costs.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're exactly right.
So it does. All right. So let's talk about this, Clint. You've mentioned it a couple of times because you think about insurance. All right, Florida, hurricanes, that's the problem, all this stuff. It's not the problem. Hurricanes were fine.
Even mentioned hurricanes.
What's the problem? What's driving this whole craziness, Clint?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you two numbers here.
Okay.
And you don't have to be in the insurance business to understand the discrepancy in these two numbers. 7% of the claims in the United States come from the state of Florida, right? 76% of the lawsuits in the country from insurance comes from the state of Florida.
Okay,
you see the discrepancy there?
So
we're looking at a.
But why is there like predatory legal suing or whatever it is? I mean, what the heck's going on?
Yeah, I kind of want to leave my lawyer hat off on this, but all I can say is, the governor has called for a special session to try to stabilize the market. From my understanding, what it looks like is you have multipliers within claims that the lawyers are charging. But again, I don't want to get too deep into it, but that's kind of the sense that I'm getting based on my research is again, we have a litigation issue. Basic claims are turning into giant claims, and going back to what I said earlier, if these carriers can't make any money, they're not going to stay in business. So we're seeing examples of $10,000 claims turn into $150,000 claims.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the insured, isn't getting a lot of that pot.
Right.
Okay.
So what's
happening?
That's
kind of what we're seeing.
It's just simple economics, capitalism, right? I have a company. I'm insuring a property with the idea that I'm going to get premiums, and I won't have to pay them all out every year at max levels, and then I can make some money. All of a sudden, though, I get this massive amount of lawsuits, heavy lawsuits, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. I either go bankrupt or I just choose to get out. Not worth it anymore. Is that fair to say?
You're exactly right. That's exactly what it is. And what you're starting to see, you can get online and see this. What you're starting to see is these carriers are starting to put policy language in the policies that are saying, hey, basically, if we have a disagreement on a claim, you can't take this route to recoup all these monies with a lawyer, right? So I think you're going to see more of that policy language. But again, until we get the litigation issue that's come up in the state of Florida under control, I still think we're going to stay in the market that we're in right now.
Okay. So we got what we got. If you own a property or you're about to buy a property, insurance is going to be a tax. Basically what it is. It's going to be a cost of owning that property. And if your water heater is working fine, that's great. But if it's beyond its actuarial life, you're going to get hit. Same thing with the roof. Exactly. Same thing with HVAC. Any way around that, or is that just the way it is?
Yeah, that's the way it is right now. And, I see it all the time where, we have a large number of realtors and lenders that obviously send their clients our way.
Yeah.
And I'll get, a bunch of quote requests with 15-year-old roofs. And, we can find a market for it. It's going to be significantly higher. Probably not going to get the coverage you want. But here's the problem. The problem is these carriers, they're slowly dwindling the ages. Okay. So let's say it goes from 15 to 12. Well, guess what, John? The client that you just sold a house to 6 months ago is going to get a non-renewal possibly in 6 months, saying, hey, your roof's 16 years old. Now you got to come out of pocket $15,000, opposed to when we could have gone back and possibly negotiated a roof at the beginning of the buy.
All that glitters is not gold. Is that fair to say?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So be careful, because I know folks want to get that quick savings, but a quick savings isn't always a savings over the long haul.
Right.
Because not all insurance policies are the same. Is that fair?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So, nor are all insurance companies the same.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's, you call us, like I said, we're actually, we represent 99% of the market.
Okay.
We got multiple shops, and we'll find a carrier. We have a solution for every problem you have. So leave it to us, call us. We've got about 15 agents in house, and we can find you the best rates.
All right, Clint. So how does somebody get a hold? Are they getting a hold of you, or who they calling? Where does somebody contact?
Yeah, absolutely. Call me. The office is 850-654-1567. That's the office number. Okay. With everything going on in the market right now, email is probably the easiest way to contact, just to initiate the conversation with all the phone calls and stuff we're getting. My email is going to be Clint, CLINT, and then I'm going to say it and then kind of spell it for you. It's going to be at ahifl.com. So it stands for Affordable Home Insurance Florida. That's Clint at ahifl.com.
Okay.
Perfect.
We got at the beach team, so we understand we feel your pain.
Perfect.
We feel your pain on that. Okay, so Clint, appreciate you here. Hey, one last thing. What advice would you give to owners out there right now that are stuck in this? What would you tell them to do?
Really just ask the questions. I think the best thing you can do is, if you're looking at, if you're the realtor, John, and you're showing a house, for the owner, ask questions. But I think, it kind of falls back to, on the realtors like yourself, you're very, very well educated on the insurance side to make sure that your clients kind of know what they're getting into. And you can start that initial conversation with them on some insurance pieces and then forward them to us, being the experts, and we can answer anything they have.
Okay.
Awesome.
There you go. Katie, anything?
No, Clint, appreciate you joining us today.
There you are, bud.
No problem, guys. Anytime. Happy.
All right, so that was good.
Yeah, that was a great information there from Clint.
He's your guy.
Yeah, so I actually got his information from Courtney on our team when I bought my home 3 years ago. Needed insurance, right? And so where do you go? You ask around at work. And so she recommended him, and it's been great ever since.
Can't say that about everyone.
No.
So he was good, because insurance is a messy game right now. We see it all the time with my water heater's fine. I don't need, my roof is fine. I don't need all this stuff. Buildings getting dropped. My insurance is through. It's just crazy
and
expense.
It's just one more thing when you're purchasing the property. That's how I felt. That's where I'm like, I need a pro. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. I have questions, and it was great.
But I get it. If your roof isn't leaking and they
I
tell
know
you
it's hard
it's
to
big bucks.
Yeah, it's hard to comprehend that you have to do that.
If you don't have insurance, you don't have a loan.
No, you got to have it.
You got to have it. So Clint, I think he's good. Folks should give him a call.
Absolutely.